Oh, hey, Peter. All right. I'm getting ready to go live. I'll talk to you here in just a bit. All right. I'm just making sure everything's set. All right. Hello, everybody. Testing, testing. Yep. Okay. Just doing a quick audio check. Looking at my different stream outages. Okay. Make sure that's still working okay. I think we're going there. Yeah. Great. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Deep Astronomy live stream, the place where algorithms go to die. Because here today we do whatever we want, whenever we want. So welcome to my live stream. And today we are going to be talking about the upcoming launch on Christmas morning of one of the most, if not the most important scientific instrument ever used by the human race, the launch of the James Webb Space Telescope. There is a lot riding on this scope and the launch and the deployment. So naturally, we are feeling a little bit stressed out about this. And so today's stream, we want to get it all out. We want to let it all hang out. We want to talk about what's bothering us. We want to console each other and help each other out getting through this rather stressful time. I don't know about you, but my sphincter has been working overtime. That didn't sound very good. it is, let's just say I've got strong Kegel muscles now. Is that Kegel muscles? I believe is right. Yeah. So anyway, there's lots of ways that we can console each other. The main way that most people will be using is the chat on YouTube and Twitch and Twitter and Facebook. I've got them all right here streaming into my little thingy here. You could join the Discord server, the Deep Astronomy Discord server, and already Uncle Bill, Peter is there, so we can chat about things that bother us in an auditory way. So please, I encourage you to join the server and do that. And I also have with me my good friend Christian Reddy from Launchpad Astronomy. Welcome, Christian. Thank you for joining. If you would like to join this thing that we're doing, I'll send you a link to. Just email me. So how you doing, that's it, Peter. How you doing, Christian?
This thing of ours, right?
This thing that we're doing.
This Cosa Nostra, right? That's what we're doing.
That's right. Yes, it's. I haven't talked to you in a long time, so this will.
Yeah.
This will be one of the first time that I've talked with you in quite a while. So how are you doing? Give us an update on what you're up to.
I'm I still teach at Towson University. They haven't fired me yet, and I'm also running the planetarium over there. And I've got a little channel called Launchpad Astronomy, which I hope one day to grow up to be big and strong, just like yours, Tony. And it's having a lot of fun.
I predict that'll happen in a few months. The rate you're going, your content is really great. And
thank you.
If you guys don't know about Launchpad Astronomy, get over there and subscribe. We were talking about earlier this week trying to get together and joining forces on our streams for Saturday.
Yeah.
But I don't think we were able to really converge. And that's mostly my fault because...
No, I don't know about that. I mean, by the way, my camera's frozen, so, pardon me. It's can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Why is it frozen? Let me turn you off and back on again.
It's not you, it's me.
Okay.
I have to switch over to this camera, which has a
there you go.
A very overexposed image right now because I have my lights brought in. Sorry about that, everybody.
Yeah.
Did somebody say they couldn't hear me? I feel like someone said, okay. Peter is saying that, hey, Christian Reddy, we can't hear you at Tony D. We can hear him in YouTube, but not Discord. Oh, I see. So,
oh yeah, Discord, you're not going to hear him yet, because if I make it so you can hear him on Discord, you're also being streamed live, and I'm not ready for that yet. So Peter and Uncle Bill, hang tight, okay? You'll have to listen on YouTube right now. In a minute, I'll push my button and bring you guys in live. So for right now, you on Discord, you can't hear Peter. I'm sorry, Christian.
it's all
You
right.
should just change your name to Peter for me.
Yeah,
So
you
that way I
can
won't.
call me Peter if that helps. Just do whatever it takes, man. Just
Oh man, it's crazy.
we got to get through this thing, we
Whatever gets me through the day, right?
No, exactly. No pressure. So yeah, I was trying out my other camera over here, and I thought, hey, I can use this thing for live streaming, and the thing crapped out on me, and it just gives me this. So I mean, I look good in this shot, but
Well, I wasn't. Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah, now I look like crap, But
Oh man.
but you, Tony, you are the most handsome man in all of astronomy YouTube. So
Wow.
as long as you look good, everybody looks good.
Whew, I'm getting the vapors. You're giving me the vapors. Okay. So JWST.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. You and I have been following this for quite a while. It was really ramping up big time when I was at the Institute, I guess, from 2012 to 2016. I think was no 2018 was when I left. So that's when I was working there. You were there even prior to that, as I understand it, right?
Yeah, I was there back in the 90s. So I was there basically. I joined the Institute. Just a couple of months before the first servicing mission to Hubble.
Oh, so that's way back.
Yeah. So those were some days, and it was pretty exciting with all that. And I left I think 5 years later in '97 to go work down at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center, and
the rest is history.
the rest is forgotten. I don't remember the rest
Well,
of
I
it.
tell you what, before you leave the stream, I want to talk specifics about the planetarium you work at, because I am a planetarian from way back. I love planetaria. I cut my teeth on them. I've worked in many different planetaria. I have also done mobile. I had a star lab for a while.
Oh,
I
wow.
love planetaria. So I want to talk a little bit about what you're doing over at Towson toward the end of this a little bit.
Sure.
But so we're all anxious, all of us, about this, not the least of which is Thomas Zurbuchen, the director of the Science Mission Directorate at NASA. NASA has been, as I said before, is split up into two big parts. There's a human spaceflight part, and then there's the Science Mission Directorate part. And then I think there's a subset of that, which is the Earth observing part of it, where a lot of the weather satellites and things like that live. But the part where we live is where the rovers are, and by say we, this is the part I'm interested in the most, even more than human spaceflight. This is where space telescopes live, rovers, deep space probes, all of that, Voyager, all of that stuff lives in the Science Mission Directorate. And I want to get your thoughts on something, Christian, because the stakes are so high on this launch that Thomas has said that if it fails, of which there is ample opportunity for it to fail, it's going to set NASA's Science Mission Directorate back 20 years.
Yeah, for him to make that statement, I can only I don't know Zurbuchen personally, so I don't know how he thinks or whatever. But to me, that's either I'm sure he is being brutally honest when he says this. I don't doubt that is the kind of risk that they're facing, but I'm also kind of, in a way, I'm taking that as a good sign, because the fact that he's going out there and saying that, it's like when Babe Ruth comes up to the home plate and he points to the upper bleachers before he swings, like, you know what I mean? It's like he kind of knows this will work, and I know that no one has a crystal ball, but when you spend all that time and effort, all those, I don't know how many millions of man hours have gone into this thing, all that testing,
entire careers.
Yeah. I mean, I look, I don't want to be Pollyanna. It's just like, oh, it can't fail. But I mean, I think you said it best the other day in your stream, Tony. Nobody manages risk better than NASA. So if it can't work, then it can't work. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, it should have worked. It was supposed to
Yeah.
work, but didn't work. It just couldn't work.
Yeah, let's start there, because in terms of therapy, let us all remember when we get together and feel nervous about this, that we are often claiming of the human race things like we dare to be great, we try hard things, and we really, really push the envelope. And whenever we start to criticize NASA, or think about that this is just a big boondoggle and why are we spending all of this money, this is what that means. If you're talking about being truly great and taking real risks, managed risks, but real risks nonetheless, to explore our universe, this is what that looks like. I predict that the James Webb Space Telescope launch, mission, deployment, all of that will be the last of its size. I don't think we're going to be doing this again. I don't think NASA will be doing this again. Let me say it that way, because there is we're on the border of just maybe the risk being too great right now. And this is an all eggs in one basket situation. $10 billion, 300 plus single points of failure. These are things that if any one thing happens, the whole mission dies. And the cost and no servicing, no refilling, all of that stuff. I think these kinds of missions will end with the James Webb Space Telescope. WFIRST is coming up next. The Nancy Grace Roman Space.
Nancy Grace Roman, NGRST.
Yeah. But that's nowhere near the same scale.
Right.
So this will be the last one of this scale. What do you think of that?
I'm optimistic that, especially if this goes well. I mean, especially if they've demonstrated that, okay, this did work. I think that there can be something as large as Webb. Maybe nothing larger anytime soon, but remember the Astro 2020 Decadal survey recommended a large UV ultraviolet infrared observatory. I know they're not calling it LUVOIR, but they're basically saying, okay, like a 6-meter hybrid between the LUVOIRs and the HABEX studies that were done. So if you can bring those together into a 6-meter package, then we can pretty much characterize 25 local exoplanets very reliably, and then develop some, albeit small, statistics on habitability in the universe. If they can pull this off, and they're being very realistic about it in this decadal, and they're just flat out saying, hey, this is not something we expect to do in 10 years. We expect to take a gap decade, basically, and develop the technologies. We're recommending that NASA just take that time, study and develop the technologies without the pressure of, you've got to get this thing working, it must work, launch it. It's develop the technologies, and then if everything's good to go a decade hence, well, then go ahead, start building it.
You're right. Yeah, you're right about that. It did recommend those things, and I do think you're right. If this is a success, maybe NASA will feel a little bit froggy and decide, let's do this again. That was great. But the Decadal survey first and foremost recommended this entire new, I forgot the term they used, but an entire new way of doing these missions. They recommended that we retool how these missions are selected, the scale of these missions, and the cost of these missions. So yes, a 6-meter telescope on average, like something LUVOIR-ish, was recommended. It isn't a step up from Webb. It's, if anything, it's more on just more wavelengths. But it did say, what, this all or nothing approach isn't feasible. There's too big of a gap between $5, $6, $10 billion and 500 million, which is the Explorer class missions, right? So they wanted a better way, a more complete way of building these telescopes. That was their first recommendation, which I thought was interesting, because of all the other decadal surveys we've ever read, there's always been, do this mission, right? We want this mission, that mission, that mission. Here they're saying, wait a minute, we want to redo how we're selecting missions and building these things and deciding on them. And let's go ahead and build a 6-meter class space telescope. But that was first. So I thought that was interesting. And that's another thing that leads me to say what I just said.
No, I don't disagree outright. I mean, I think what I definitely can agree with you 100% on is that I think this is the last time they say we need this. go build this. And NASA says, okay, we're going to build this and we're going to figure it out as we go along. Like, I kind of suspect that might be it for that. And maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah, they did say that. That's interesting. You're right. They did kind of say, well, we don't know how we're going to do this yet. The technologies don't exist yet. We have to invent them, but we will. And one of the many reviews that the Webb Space Telescope mission went through said that NASA, well, I think it was a GAO report actually, that said, you know, you guys are a little bit too optimistic in your own abilities here.
just a bit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you know, and I know it's
timing.
Yeah, and obviously with the timing, they were definitely optimistic. You know, and look, I mean, I can understand that. I mean, I've been involved in projects, albeit with far lower stakes. But you know, okay, we're going to develop this, even like an application. You know, oh, okay, we're going to develop this app. Oh, yeah, you know what? It has to be this actually. Oh, yeah, you realize there's more to it. Yeah, you know, I don't think anybody, in fairness, could say they were genuinely surprised at how hard Webb was to build. I also think, at the risk of a tangent, is that, you know, I know a lot of people love to criticize and say, well, it should have been, you know, it was supposed to be for $700 million or $500 million or $500 million, right?
I remember those days,
$500 million. But everybody knew back then that that was a fantasy. Nobody. We just got done with building Hubble. Where did that number come from? I really don't know. Maybe that was what it took to get Administrator Golden at the time, who was all fond of small, faster, better, cheaper. You know, maybe that's what it took to get him to sign off, or for him to not kill it. But I mean, nobody realistically thought that was going to happen. So I guess if there's a lesson to be learned, is don't oversell it. You know, I mean, don't underestimate it. And again, that's something where I have to give the Decadal a lot of credit for. You know, they're even saying we think we're looking at $11 billion. So they're already going above the 9.7 billion of Webb. They're already
including
saying,
operations in that number.
Right, they're including operations, exactly. So, and I think Webb, now, does the Webb 10 billion, does that include ops, or does that include?
Not yet.
No, okay.
The 11 billion number does. I tried to pin this down in previous streams, and what I was able to find out was Hubble cost in 2020 dollars about 3 to 4 billion to build, put up in space, and throughout its mission, its 31 years of operating, it's cost a total of $13 billion.
Okay.
And it has of course, that includes 5 servicing missions, right? With Hubble, which are not cheap. So that's So we're looking at a lot of money on Hubble. No one's bitching about that. But yeah, so we're looking at only about 5 to 10 years of operating time, not 30, with JWST. Let me get to this comment here, and then I want to bring in the Discord guys.
Sure.
So this is from Michelle75. Why would anyone in their right minds build a $10 billion scope with 300 plus points of failure? Doesn't seem like a smart thing to do. You know what it is, Michelle? It's ballsy.
Yeah.
Tell me that didn't take some balls. The size of Jupiter to decide to do this thing.
Who in their right mind thought it would be a good idea to put a SUV-sized rover into a little tiny, you know, scrunch it up into a little tiny aeroshell, then drop it with a sky crane that's going to hover? And we did that twice. Who in their right mind wants to put astronauts on the moon with no guarantee that we'll be able to bring them home safely? Oh yeah, we did that a few times too. You know, that's
what about flying a helicopter on Mars? Who thought that'd be a good idea?
Yeah,
we've done that too. So yeah,
next thing you know, they'll want to play rock and roll music. I mean, you know, so there's all kinds of impossible things that we can do.
And here's the thing about this. He's got a good point. We get it. It's hard. It's scary. It's expensive. It could all be thrown to shit in no time. But people were also saying this in 1990 with Hubble. And of course, it was launched with not catastrophic, but with a big failure, and it had to be fixed. And now think about how we look about Hubble. People are outraged that it might actually deorbit and burn up in the Earth's atmosphere. They love it so much. It has become such a great testament to what we've gotten done that they want to try and save it. Everybody does, and they don't care what it costs. Even they'll say, "Yeah, man, let's just build, let's invent stuff to go do that." So remember this, okay? When we think about Webb, remember how we feel about Hubble. NASA has gone to great pains to say that this is not Hubble 2.0. What they say is that JWST is the successor, the follow-on, the next generation. In fact, it was once called the next generation space telescope, and that's what this really is. And so we are about to embark on a huge different level of observing and capability in space with this telescope. Hubble just cannot do what JWST could do. If it could, they would do it. And so we need to do this extra step. And we'll talk a little bit about what JWST will do in a little bit. And I also want to pull up the ESA Twitter feed because there's some news on the rocket launch. So I'll do that. But let me bring up my friends on Discord. You guys should now be able to hear through Discord. Let me know if you can't. And be aware that anything you say will also be
used against you.
That's right. So welcome, guys. I have Peter and Uncle Billy. You guys don't have to say anything if you don't want to, but if you do, your mics are now live, just so you know. Let me pull up.
And while you're doing that, Tony, I'm actually trying to troubleshoot a little something on my end, so pardon me as I fiddle with my camera.
Yeah, go ahead. This is, like I said, this is
all informal.
This is where algorithms go to die. We don't do, there's always a catastrophe on my life.
Hey, I got my good camera back. Yay.
Oh, good. So here's ESA's Twitter Webb Telescope Twitter feed. Let's look at where we are right now. So they've pinned a tweet from a couple of days ago that shows the Webb all folded up and mounted on the rocket. The rocket, I think, is down there. The fairing is right over there.
Well, yeah. So the rocket is not visible in that image. That was actually before it was even lifted on top of the rocket.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought it.
But yeah, those are the fairing halves next to it. So this is on the floor of the BAF, the assembly building.
They had a picture of it actually on the rocket, but
they had a few. Yeah,
they don't have it tweeted here. Anyway, this is as of an hour.
Oh, look at that! Oh, wow.
This is as of an hour or so ago. They're moving the rocket out, and they went out to the launch pad. That looks kind of surreal, doesn't it?
It does. It does. Well, it's a beautiful rocket, isn't it? I mean, I think it's just absolutely gorgeous. Yeah.
That's a beefy rocket.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here.
Oh, look at it! There it is.
Here's on the launch pad here.
There it is.
So it's
each of the Kersey Watcher says each of these photos makes it more stressful. Oh, come on! What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah.
You know what's funny? I just assumed that the rocket was always secured and bolted to the launch pad. No. The rocket's own weight secures it. It can't tip. It basically isn't going to tip over. It just stands on its boosters.
Yeah, because it's got this on it, this little gantry.
Yeah,
thing, but
yeah, that is just amazing. And it was all pulled out by that little blue truck in the front.
Thomas the rocket puller truck.
Did you? Yeah, I retweeted some stuff of one of the reporters down there because I just assumed, there's rails or some locomotives involved. No, it's on rails, yes, but that truck is doing all of the. They're like, yeah, it handles it just fine.
Yeah, so that's an example of minimalist European engineering. They don't need a big 8 track thing to move their stuff on rock gravel or river gravel to get it out to the launch pad. They just get a truck.
I know. We built this. We built this insane crawler. They're like, truck.
Yeah, we just got this truck here. Then I'm going to be upset. That's a great. It looks just like Thomas the Tank Engine.
It is.
Okay, so these were all from about an hour ago, according to Twitter thing here. And so this is from ESA. They're operating. They're responsible for the part of the mission that gets it into space. That's one of their major contributions to the mission, and it will hopefully go okay in a couple of days. I'm scrolling here to see if this is this is Thomas Erbukin tweeted this picture. I like how he drew a little hand.
Yeah.
it is.
There it is. It's right there. Do you see it? Do you see it? Yes, Tom. We see it. We see it. It's right there. Do you see it? It's right there. It's going.
There it is. They obviously wouldn't let him get any closer.
No.
That's his vantage point there.
He'd run up to it. Don't let it go. Leave it. Leave it. Leave it. I'm like,
yeah. Do you know Alberto Conti? You've met him, haven't you?
I know of him. I don't
yeah.
think I've ever had the pleasure. Yeah.
He's going there. I think he should be there. He's good. He worked with me at the Institute. Then he went to Northrop Grumman, and then he left there, and now he's at Ball Aerospace. And so,
oh, okay.
But there's a little truck. There's the truck you were talking about.
Yeah, there it is, and you could see the orange rail trucks, which I know it's another kind of truck, but the rail wheels, right? The train wheels.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I just assumed that, oh, okay, there's rails, there's wheels, there's a locomotive. No,
there you go.
That thing. It goes really slow, right? Like 4 kilometers an hour. So that's what, like 3.5 miles an hour, something like that, whatever it is. But it works.
Would you like to be that guy right there? I mean, could you imagine being him? Can you see my cursor?
I know, by driving just holding this thing up to the, yeah.
See, I'd mess it up because this is a left-hand drive, so it'd be all. I'd be driving on the wrong hand.
Look at that thing; it's so cool. Oh man,
yeah. So there's some. This is from all from today from Ariane Space. So inside this fairing sits our venerable telescope.
What a hoot! And think about it. I mean, like it says, it's isolated. There's no chance of something accidentally falling onto it or hitting it. It's as safe as it ever will be until it launches.
That's right.
Right. And it's like, yeah, but it really is as safe and isolated. And the last the last living being on this planet has seen Webb with their very own eyes. The last living being has seen Webb.
Yeah.
That's
right. That's right. There'll be no more interaction with human beings at this point. That's a good way to look at it. That's interesting. Yeah, you're right about that. So,
I mean, unless there's like a fly or something like that that's flying around in that fairing, but I doubt it. I really doubt it, given how hard they work to keep everything clean.
I doubt that too. Yeah, there was a special chamber, I think, to put it in before they put the fairings on, and then they had a curtain around the telescope, and then they very.
I also learned that the fairing itself is modified. The fairing is also a mobile clean room.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. With the air ventilation and filtration and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, they turn the fairing into a clean room, which is amazing. I did not know that, but I guess it makes sense because you don't want the humid air getting into it, and because it's in the jungle, right? So you don't want all that humidity condensing on the spacecraft. So
yeah. To make a clean room, you need to have this thing called positive pressure differential or something like that, where the pressure in the chamber is greater than the pressure outside, so all the air is constantly being pushed out, and the air that goes in is highly filtered. They probably have a lot of HEPA filters and other things in there on the air intakes and that. Amazing. So keeps all the dust out and keeps anything from going back in to the area. So
just amazing. It's here. I mean. I mean, what do you think, Tony? Would you describe yourself as nervous? You described yourself as, Kegel sphincter control, but would you say that you're nervous or what? You asked me earlier, so I guess I'm asking you, right?
I've come to terms with it. I'm at peace with everything that's happened. The whole thing could blow up now, and I could still be eventually okay, because we attempted this, we tried this, and I think doing something is better than doing nothing in this case. Now, my friend Dustin often says, is when is doing nothing ever been the right thing to do? And there's plenty of examples in history where that's been true. Building nuclear weapons might not have been the best way to go, things like that. But in this case, I think that the best path for humanity into the stars is with remote robotic sensing and traveling and discovery. Until we can mitigate and learn more about the human effects of being on space long term, That's just not an option for us. I think it will be deadly in the near term, short term, for human beings to go.
Mhm.
But think about what we've learned, never having left the surface of the earth. And that is, to me, very inspiring, and the way to put our efforts. And while I am all behind going to the moon, building the gateway,
Sure.
Artemis, even going to Mars for a colony, short-term stay, I think all of that is absolutely something worth doing. But that pales. It won't teach us anywhere near as much as what these other missions have taught us about Jupiter, about Mars, about Europa, Pluto, everything. We've been there. We've gone to these things multiple times now, and we've learned so much.
Well
So,
said.
so I think, yeah, it could explode. That'll be terrible, and I will cry. But I have to give it to NASA. This was a ballsy move. I mean, they are not always as conservative as they're made out to be. I think a lot of that is in human spaceflight. I think that's rightfully so. You want to
Hmm.
be over the top
Yeah.
cautious. But this, man, they let the stops out. They said,
Yeah.
let's do this. Let's do this. And I got to hand it to them.
Yeah, no, I agree. They're going all out with this. I
Yeah.
mean, I think was it the Washington Post? Somebody described it as NASA's throwing their long ball. It's like, yeah, it's like, let's do it. It's time. We've figured out how to do it. We've tested it. We've verified it as best as we can. We've got plans and plans and backups to the backups plan. Game time, and it's like, yeah, this is what this is. I don't know. This is humanity at its best right here, is what I feel. I really do feel that.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Well, if it does explode during launch, we can always call it Flames Web.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Flames Web Space. I've heard it all, man. Back when it was being launched on Christmas Eve, people were saying, don't worry about it crashing into Santa, because JWST is launching as something we tell children. It's not real. So, yeah.
And hello, Christian. I think this is the first time I've spoken to you.
Is this Jim? James?
Peter.
Yeah, it's
Peter. Peter. Hey, it's Peter Quinn. How you doing? Good to talk to you, mate.
Yeah.
Good to speak to you. But here's the thing. It's the next week to month that's going to be the squeaky bum time, I think. I think the launch is going to go fine.
Yeah. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, you're right. The real nerve-wracking stuff is yet to come.
Right. So if you go to this, so
Agreed.
what Peter's alluding to is the launch and then the 29 days following launch for the deployment of James Webb Space Telescope. And for all of you who don't know about this, go to www.jwst.nasa.gov, go to their Explore Deployments button, and you'll see this webpage. And here you can click on all these different things that will talk about all the different areas and points of deployment along the way. On Saturday, I'm going to hang out until about here. This is launch plus 33 minutes. They're going once. This is deploying the solar array to give power to the spacecraft. If this is another single point of failure, this doesn't deploy, then the mission's over. So I'll be here for that part of it, and then the next part is going to be things like burns, course corrections. These will be happening 12 hours day, all these things throughout the following month, and so I'll keep track of that. I'll also do streams in the 29 days coming up that we'll visit where JWST is at various parts of its deployment as well. But yeah, all of this is going to be where there's all kinds of things that could go wrong.
No, that's a really good point. We could actually have a live stream. Okay, they're about to send the command to open up the sun shield,
Oh yeah, and the great part about NASA, as opposed to say China, is that we get to follow along. Another thing that's ballsy to me about NASA is that you see it, warts and all.
Yeah,
they're always out there, and so it's easy to say, "Oh, NASA screwed the pooch again." But at least you're watching and you're part of it, and you are seeing how hard all of this is.
Yeah.
China does something, you don't even know if it's happened. until it's well past that, and they've got this glorious PR thing to show you. So
right. Everything went perfect and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, right.
And the Soviet Union, Russia, same way. It's like, here we are very open about these things, and I think that's tremendously exciting. People can really experience it in real time, or as close to real time as we can. But nowadays, it's even more real time than it used to be. So it's a great way to fly. I'm just glad to be doing this.
You've never seen NASA hide from this. I mean, they don't do things. The military does. You see them launching stuff all the time, but not NASA.
Now, in fairness, some of the stuff is controlled. I mean, for example, there's like a huge list of commands that they're going to send. No, they're not going to make that public. They don't want people trying to interfere with it and things like that. But yeah, they're not really being secretive. We'll just tell you about it after the fact. It launched. No. We're going to show you rolling it out to the pad. We're going to show you launching. We're going to show you all this stuff, and you're going to find out with us how well it worked out. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, one thing I want to share with you while we're on this topic of failure is I really want to point as many people as possible to where to go. Here we go. If you know about Ethan Siegel, he writes as Starts with a Bang, and he's now, I guess, writing for Big Think. He used to write for Forbes, but he wrote an article here that I want to just scroll down and go over because it's really, he makes good points. It goes 5 critical moments that will determine the success or failure of JWST. The first one is as I scroll down is the oops, I've scrolled too far. Hold on, let me slow down. The first one is the launch, right? The launch is the most scary part up front. If this fails, obviously the mission fails. So I won't go into that in too much detail. But the second big part is the separation and the solar array deployment. This spot will be another one where we'll all be watching on Saturday to make sure it goes well. Remember these fairings, Christian just got through saying these were part of a clean room, and they've recently had an experience with this rocket, a problem of unwanted acceleration of the payload whenever those were separated. And that was due, they thought, to pressure building up during launch, the pressure inside being greater than the pressure outside, causing an unwanted acceleration. So to mitigate that, they put holes in the fairing to keep that pressure, and they've since tested that with 2 launches prior to JWST and found that they've gotten rid of the unwanted acceleration. So that's good. Still, this is going to be a tight, these have to pop off, and then the spacecraft has to come out. That's another big point.
That clamp band better spring off correctly this time. Yeah.
That's right. And then the part that's going to take many, many days is this full sun shield deployment. This is the part that's going to take a really long time. It's going to go very slowly. All 5 of them have to be fully deployed. Here you can see a GIF of them separating in the lab. Now, they were able with JWST to test everything that could be tested in an environment that JWST was going to be in. They had the Johnson Space Flight Center big vacuum chamber used. They shook it. They've blown sound waves at it. That's going to be similar to what's being launched. So all of that's been tested and found to be good, but this part has to be kind of improvised because they had to simulate weightlessness on Earth to be able to see if these were going to deploy properly, and so that's still an if.
Grizzly Wasp had a good comment there. Curiosity had 7 minutes of terror, whereas Webb will have a month.
That's right.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Does anybody know if they? I don't think that the sun shield was tested. Well, I guess the sun shield did not have to be tested at cryogenic temperatures because it is, going to be the sun-facing side of things, so it's going to be warm. So I guess they didn't have to test that in a vacuum chamber at cryogenic. They tested the telescope in cryogenic conditions, but not the spacecraft, not the sun shield and below.
No, but they did put the entire spacecraft bus into the cryo chamber at Johnson. But you're right.
Oh, okay.
It did not have the sun shield components on it.
Yeah.
So that is a real unknown, because even with the trying to simulate weightlessness in Northrop Grumman's facilities, it was just one with guy wires and different things to sort of release the pressure off from gravity. So how well they did on that is unknown until it actually deploys.
I mean, even then, they admit that they can't get it perfect, right? You can't completely make something weightless, even by offloading its weight. There's always going to be something, a few micronewtons here and there. That all starts to add up, and yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of springs and hinges on this thing. So,
yeah. But good thing we're having therapy to calm our fears about this, Tony.
It will.
Yeah.
I spoke to Scott Willoughby. Let's do some therapy. I spoke to Scott Willoughby. Let me just get rid of this for a sec. In one of the astronomy meetings, I think it was AAS from a while back, and we did a live stream from the Northrop Grumman booth. And I asked him this. I said, "What is it about what about all the hinges and the springs that are on JWST to release this sun shield?" And he said that every single nut, bolt, hinge, spring, tiny piece of hardware, all of it has to go through a process called being space qualified. And to be space qualified is not just something you look at something and go, okay, this looks pretty good, let's go and put that on there. It has to be tested in the environment of space. So the stuff that they're using has been used and tested and considered qualified for use. That doesn't mean, of course, that the stuff won't happen. All we have to do is think back to the what was that probe that just launched that had the
Lucy.
Thank you. Lucy, its dish fully latched down. So, or I'm sorry, its solar panels didn't fully latch down. And so I'm thinking of Galileo with the antenna.
That was another big oops.
Another example. So, but the thing about Webb, though, this isn't like Galileo and it's not like Lucy. If this doesn't fully deploy in the way it was meant to deploy, you won't reach the operating temperature it needs to be, which means that's another single point of failure, which is what Ethan was saying. So anyway, to rest our minds at this, all that can be done has been done to ensure that this will deploy. Okay. Whether or not that makes you feel good or not depends on whether or not you have faith in Northrop Grumman. And I realize I just killed everybody right there.
Burn. Sick burn. Wow.
I don't, because it does. I mean, Northrop Grumman has not instilled a lot of confidence lately. But again,
Northrop Grumman. I don't know if I should mention this or not. Nah, I guess I won't. I guess I won't mention it because it'll get people too excited about Northrop Grumman and too nervous. So I'll go ahead.
Right. Okay, so now you've just heightened all around.
Okay. Anecdotes are to be taken with as much of a grain of salt as you can muster. But I remember being at a conference, oh gosh, at least 10 years ago, maybe even more than that. And, the word that I heard from one of the engineers, I think at NASA, said that, Northrop is just not putting their best people on this, or rather they put people on it when they don't have anything else better for them to do, and if there was like a really big contract coming down the pike, but they were waiting for that to kick off, they put them to work on Webb, and then they'd move them off Webb and then move to something else. It's just, I don't know how true that is, but obviously, and I think you mentioned this the other day, is that, when it comes to contracts for companies like Northrop Grumman, Webb is actually not that big. It's big, but it's not like the biggest.
They're used to building $35 billion airplanes, right? So I mean, and a bunch of them. So this is like, this is nothing to them. They're like, well, I don't get the anxiety here. I do know that John Ehrenberg was the chief engineer from Northrop that worked on that mission. He was pretty consistently the same guy through it. He's a good guy.
That's good.
I think he was really capable of doing all the things that he was doing. But this other thing is consistent with what you're saying. This, that one test where the sun shield had the bits and bobbles fall off. Is example of maybe people weren't quite paying attention, and they were found. That was found to be the case. Northrop Grumman had some. NASA had some oversight issues with Northrop Grumman. So, but that was looked at pretty hard, and NASA, I think, came down on them pretty hard about it too. So, I hope.
And this is in no way to knock the engineers at Northrop or anything like that. I mean, it's like, people are human beings. People do make mistakes. This, by the way, is why you test. This is why you figure this stuff out. And you don't just, oh, okay, let's tighten that stuff up and test again. Good, no factor, move on. No, they don't. They stop, they analyze, they figure out exactly what went wrong. They update their procedures. They make sure that everybody up and down the chain knows the new rules of engagement when it comes to this particular subsystem of the observatory. Now you test it. Now it's good. Move on to the next thing. Oh, that had a problem. Okay, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go ahead and do the whole thing over again. We're going to figure out the fault tree all the way up and down the chain. We're going to re-update our procedures. This is one of the reasons it took so long to build, guys. It's and one of the reasons why I'm increasingly confident of its success.
Right. And there were corrections made after that fiasco as well with the nuts and bolts. So I want to get to two more major points of failure here from Ethan. One is the number 4 is the primary mirror. It has to unfold. In 2 big segments have to come forward, and finally, and the secondary mirror has to come down. The secondary mirror tower has to come down. You can see these animated GIFs of all of that happening. Here's where the mirrors are folded up here, and this is where the tower is coming down with the secondary on it. That any of this doesn't happen right, nothing happens. You talk about some major aberration if that doesn't open on the primary. You got some big issues there. And finally, this is one I don't think people think about enough, and that's the L2 orbital insertion.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it to L2 and get inserted properly. It can't work. It's designed to work there and nowhere else. And so if it misses, it gets off course, doesn't get to L2. Now, once it's there, it's a pretty stable orbit, but getting there, it's actually in a circular orbit around the L2 point. Then that's another big point of failure. So there's the 5 things, according to Ethan, and I agree with him, things to watch for. We'll be going through this together. Okay.
Yeah.
You're not alone. Let me just say this to everybody watching, and you too, Christian. We're not going to do this alone. We'll all be together.
You got the perfect voice for that, Tony.
We will make it through this, folks.
We will.
We're going to stop that together.
That's right. Together. We will make it through.
I think it's also important to point out, too, that whenever you hear about single points of failure, I know that the explanation that's often proffered is that, well, that means if it doesn't work, the whole thing's over. But even that's not entirely true. I mean, like, okay, so for example, let's suppose one or even both of the mirrors don't deploy. Well, guess what? You still have mirrors in the middle, right? You don't collect as much light, but you're still collecting light. You still have a telescope. Let's suppose the heat shield suffers a tiny little puncture here and there. Well, guess what? They have ripstops in the heat shield to prevent it just from disintegrating. Let's suppose micrometeorites strike the mirrors. Well, that's actually been factored into the design. There are redundancies, there are a lot of margins built in, and there's also like I said, there's plan B, C, D through, double X, Y, I guess, right? They've got plans, but sure, at the same time, you're going to have a degraded capability. Now, one thing that I would say is perhaps one of the most nerve-wracking things, if you want to call it that, is that secondary has to deploy. If that secondary doesn't deploy, then you simply don't have a telescope. Full stop. Yeah. Right?
You don't have a complete optical system. That's right.
But that's also a fairly simple deployment, actually. It's just hinges.
The way they've designed it, it looks like it comes down in one motion and not a whole lot to get hung up. Maybe it won't lock in place, but if at least it gets down to where it needs to it'll go. I got more to say on this, but I want to read. Jimmy D's comment real quick. Galileo was in storage too long before launch. Good point. It was, and there were lots of delays on that mission, getting it out to Jupiter, and so that was probably a lesson learned from that mission. But with Galileo, and also with what Christian was just saying, it's very important. Let's all just take a moment and remember what happened with Kepler. So Kepler it lost one of its reaction wheels. Remember that? And it couldn't point anymore. And so part of a very critical piece of the spacecraft stopped working. That did not mean we couldn't get more data out of the instrument. They renamed it K2, and they said, you know what? We'll replace this reaction wheel with the pressure from the sun. NASA engineering at its best, and we got another 1.5 2 years of data from that space telescope, even after a critical failure like that. So Christian's absolutely right, and Galileo teaches us that too. They were very careful with their data flow in Galileo. The entire mission still pulled the thing off, and even if we don't get a full primary mirror, or even I hesitate to say even if the sun shield doesn't fully deploy, it's going to be completely useless. I'm sure the detectors will still gather photons in the infrared. Just there'll be a lot more noise in them, and so even if that happens, it depends on exactly what happens, doesn't it? If one, I think it's either all or nothing though with the sun shield, if I'm not mistaken, because first all of them they have to unfurl into its tennis court shape, and then all 5 of them are moved up.
Right,
so
they gotta be spaced
it's
out.
not like 1 will deploy and 2 will deploy, but 3 won't, 4 will, 5 won't, right? It won't be like that. It's kind of an all or nothing design. Now that I think of it.
I don't know all the specifics of the engineering of it, but yeah, I think that was designed. There's design, then there's what it does, right? But I think the intention is the way it's set up is that it kind of either has to deploy that way, or as you say, or it can't. It's probably not going to be like this or whatever. It's going to be this or nothing. So
yeah.
We'll see. Tony, I'll be right back. I have to step away just for a minute. I'll be right back.
Okay, no problem. I'll get to some comments here. I don't remember if it's 25 or 35-minute window they have at 7:20. It's 36 minutes. So I'm going to start streaming at 7 a.m. my time, noon EUT. I'm going to go until the solar panel deployment because it's Christmas morning. I have other obligations, so it's a pretty hard cutoff for me. If they end up going at the latter part of that launch window, let's say 7, what would that make it? 7:56 or something like that. I may have to cut off before the solar panel deployment, but that's the window that it's going to be done at. And happy birthday. That's cool. That's going to be near your birthday, Boney. So yeah, it's a good birthday present and a good Christmas present for all of us. So, E-Bone, it's good to have you back. I expect so much breakthrough findings with JWST that I don't want to know anymore on the 1,000 ways it could get screwed. I really expect the best to happen now. There you go. There's what we should all be doing, is following that example. Tardigrade is reminding us that the McDonald telescope has bullet holes in it. That's right. I think it's got 5 in the primary mirror. The McDonald Observatory in Brownsville, Texas, it's been in operation at the University of Texas for a very, very long time. Had an incident where an astronomer came in with a gun. I think there were marital issues involved. I don't know the full myth of the whole thing, and shot 5 rounds into the primary mirror. The mirror was so big, it was made of Pyrex, I think, that it did not crack. It just made holes in there. And of course, that did not affect the performance of the mirror all that much.
To be fair, I think the bullet holes are masked with circular stickers to minimize any diffraction effects.
Oh, okay.
And that's something that would be hard to do for something that's out in L2.
Yeah, that's true. Not to mention shooting it would be a problem too. But yeah, okay. Thank you, Uncle Bill. So right, so that there are. I mean, that just makes sense, I suppose. But and there might be little tiny cracks where the holes were created in the coating as well. So it's probably, you're right. Get rid of that. So that's a good reminder. Let's see. And Archituvus is inviting us to pull out our collective paper bag and hyperventilate to reduce the stress level. That's right. Let's not get too let's get mindful about this. We'll get into a Zen state and just imagine JWST floating towards the L2 point and slowly unfolding its primary mirror, the secondary going down, all of the stuff deploying the way it needs to, and then the next thing you know, we are there taking data. Okay, that's right. There you go. How do you do that? Is it?
I don't know. Taking data.
Yeah.
Take data.
Take data. Let the data flow.
Let the data flow. Let the photons collect onto your CCD.
Like a Tidris data stream.
Yes, pre-launch punchies. I tell you, we are feeling it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, so Galaxia is here and acknowledging how important JWST is. It's good to see you.
Hi, Galaxia.
Yeah. JWST needed redundancies it didn't have. That may be true, Meditech, but let me tell you something. People would have complained about it if you had them. You know, people also say, why didn't we build 2 of them? Right?
Yeah.
Well, people have big enough problems with the one being built. So how building 2, and they say, well, it probably wouldn't cost that much extra. It would cost a lot extra. And so
people would complain,
period. Oh yeah, people will find a way. Yes, that's true. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, sure, would it cost exactly as much as just building one? Probably not. But yeah, it would not be a insignificant extra cost. It would probably be at least, at best, maybe 50%, but probably closer to like 80 or 90. When you think about it, it is just a huge undertaking to have 2 of these things. So, Event Horizon is here. SMR, Tony, and Christian. Hello, John Michael Gaudier.
Oh, hi, welcome. Yeah, man, we're getting zenned out.
We are zenning, man.
Relaxed.
We are zenning.
I'm feeling it.
Zenning.
Oh yeah, I'm feeling it. I'm ready.
Feeling zen. Oh, hey, Event Horizon. Ping me, will you? Anyway. I just gotta ask him something offline.
All right.
If you don't mind. Thank you.
No, I don't mind. By all means. Okay, so let's see. Yeah. This said, next satellite will be built by IKEA. It'll be a lot cheaper, but I love it. Flat pack space telescope. FPST.
Put this into here with like pictographic diagrams.
It'll come with
oh yeah, right.
Yeah, but if you lose it, you can't ever take it apart again.
If you lose it, there's no more telescope.
That's right. They'll have to come up with a cool Swedish name for it though, too. Yeah, and cool. Yeah, or maybe make a Lego one too while we're on it. So
there you go. That would be easier. Yeah. Well, go ahead. Go ahead. Well, at least I know
comment. At least I know that Northrop Grumman software engineers are not the best. I do hope that their hardware engineers are much better.
Well,
listen. Well, the ones I've met, and I met John Ehrenberg, and I can tell you he's very competent, and I would not want his job, nor would I want Greg Robinson's job right now.
Whoa, man. Yeah. I mean,
he's the NASA guy. Is he the program manager or the?
He's the web project manager for NASA.
Manager.
Yeah. I mean, when things go wrong, they always blame. Right. When things go wrong, they never blame the designers, engineers. They always blame the project manager. It had to be a management problem. Nobody actually building it can do anything wrong ever. So the project manager's got to take the fall. So it's like, Greg, you're a braver man than I am. I do not want his job. I mean,
whatever they're paying you, man, ask for a raise.
Oh, they should. Talk about a hero. I mean, seriously.
Greg, good work. And yeah, man, I hope you get a break after all of this. Of course, I don't think he's going to take a break until he gets to L2 and starts taking data. At that point, I don't know at what point the handoff happens. I guess the handoff to the Institute happens during deployment, right? Because that's where it's being operated.
Actually, the handoff the handoff, if I recall correctly, that happens during launch. That actually happens.
Right.
You know how it's like when like the shuttle would go up. Okay, Houston's now controlling. It's like as soon as KSC launches it, Houston takes over. Well, obviously Arianespace is going to be flying the rocket all the way up, but Space Telescope Institute takes control of the spacecraft as soon as it leaves the pad, because they are following telemetry all the way uphill, and they're going to be getting the systems ready for everything that happens after that.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a little bit, because that's another point of scariness, is the controlling of the telescope. And that's happening in Maryland at the Space Telescope Science Institute on the 4th floor. They were building it when I left, and it's an impressive situation. The people involved there are highly capable, and they have been through several rehearsals by now.
Yeah,
that where they've just injected problems, and then the controllers had to go through and figure out what the problem was and fix it, or try to fix it. And they've been through this many times. So everything that can go wrong and that they can conceive of going wrong has been tested and rehearsed in the control room. They've been at this for years because of the delays. The one good thing about all of that is that people can get ready. And so they are a lot of dress rehearsals have been put in place on that side of it. And those people are rock stars as far as knowing what they're doing and being able to control this thing.
Cool thing about this is that they've, it's difficult to imagine anything happening that they did not already have a plan for. So it's like, oh, okay, this anomaly happened. All right, everybody, let's go to procedures, go to procedure 25B, and you start executing, you know what I mean? And it's not like, oh, what happened? No. Here's our plan. Okay, it's moved to this. Let's move off to this activity and get after it. So it's they're ready to roll.
Yeah, so I think we can relax on the operation standpoint. The first cycle of JWST operations has already been set in place, and I think on Saturday I'll talk a little bit about the first things that it's going to look at. But if you want to know, you just go to the website sdsci.edu and look at the cycle 1 proposals. You may not be able to read everything or understand everything you're going to be looking at, because it's all written in scientific ease, but they have decided the first cycle, first year of observations for JWST, and then there will be, I think the plan, correct me if I'm wrong, Christian, it's 5 years for the mission, nominally 10 years, the limiting factor being the hydrazine on board.
That's right. Yep. It's all about the fuel. And I guess that always leads to the most oft asked, and one of the most oft asked questions is, well, can't they refuel it? Well, there's nothing that says that they can't.
Right.
It's just that it's not designed to be. But there is a fueling port there.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if they come along and, a few years down the road says, we think we know a way to do this.
As I mentioned in the last stream, I should look this up and get the names down of the companies. But there are companies that are already doing it. They're already in the works, planning to do repair on near low Earth orbit satellites, safely deorbiting them, moving them to other orbits, upgrading them, all robotically, of course. There is nothing to, and I think this is within 5 years. I think before JWST's primary mission lifetime ends, I think we'll have the ability to send a retanker out there to L2 and refill it. And maybe, I don't know how good this technology would need to be, repair it if necessary.
I mean, the good news is that if I understand it correctly, the fueling port is on the bus side of the spacecraft. In other words, it's on this side of the sun shield, so you're not having to work in the dark or work in the work in the extreme cold. So you wouldn't have to
facing backside.
That's what I mean, right? Like that's going to be on our side of the sun shield, right? So we'd have a direct line of sight communication with a refueling probe, and there would not have to be the cryogenic issues and so forth. Obviously, there's still a lot of risk with that. You don't want to rattle the observatory or anything like that, but you get the idea. It's less impossible than it would be if it were a dark side mission where you have to try to go and work in the cold.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's doable in 5 years. And let's all remember that Hubble would have been a failed mission had we not had the space shuttle to go up and repair it. Luckily, that was a good decision to make it reparable by human beings. But we no longer have that capability, especially not at a million miles away. We can't even get to the moon, much less past the moon. So that's not possible for human beings. But I do think that with these companies that are coming online now, all of which are working very hard for a badly needed service. I mean, this is something we need. It's getting messy up there. And to be able to safely deorbit, move things out of the way, collect the garbage that's up there and get it out of the way, repair things, improve things. That is a capability that if the first company that does that is going to be, I think, just as rich as
they're going to be doing well.
Yeah. That's a huge market. It's only going to get better. Now, SpaceX, when they do Starlink, for example, they launch all these with the intent that they are going to be deorbited when they're no longer useful, which I guess is at a pretty high rate. They don't last as long as a lot of other satellites because they're launching so many. They're coming
and they're so low. They're just getting drag.
Yep.
They're in a high drag environment.
So there's a business model of attrition, right? They just well, that one's no good. Go ahead and deorbit it. Let's get some more up. They've already had many that have gone offline already. And so, but wouldn't it be great? And couldn't you save a lot of money if you could go up there, recharge a battery or replace a detector or move it to a different orbit? Those are all things that is a wide open market. I think that's going to be, and it will help JWST. 5 servicing missions. Hubble is by no means the same telescope it was when it launched in 1990. By 2009, it was a completely different telescope, primarily infrared. The only thing that lasted, I think, was STIS.
Yeah. Well, I mean, none of Hubble's instruments are original. STIS was put in on 3B.
That was. Oh, was it? Okay.
If I remember correctly. Yeah. Yeah. Nothing's original, So yeah, Hubble, that's a great point. I mean, the only thing that's I was going to say the only thing that's not original, the only thing that still is original are the optics, but actually no, they put in the corrective optical elements as well. So yeah. In a way, even the optics are not original. So the solar arrays have been replaced twice. So yeah.
All right. What about this question from Metatech? What do you think? Can you read it? Can you see it?
Oh boy, could they build another JWST if there's a catastrophic failure? I think the answer is yes. I mean, there's nothing that says it is impossible. Would they be allowed to? Would they be permitted to? Would they be funded to?
I don't think there's any way that would be allowed to happen. As like Zubuki said, this is going to set NASA back 20 years.
Yeah,
they will be devastating to the Science Mission Directorate.
I agree.
I
think that it's hard to game it out. I mean, let's face it. When Hubble had its problem, there was real concern. In fact, there was even an argument that was being made. I remember when I was there, I was hearing about it, that we shouldn't service this thing because we're throwing too much risk at servicing it. We could damage it. We can make things worse. And if we don't get this thing serviced, then they'll lose all political will to ever do any future servicing missions. And so anyway, I guess where I'm going with this is like, well, what happens if you did have this event? Would there be the political will to fund it? I don't know. I mean, right now the public seems to be pretty pro JWST, but then again, but if it blows up, I'm sure that support would sink pretty quickly. NASA sucks, blah 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 blah. Right?
What a waste of time. What a waste of money.
Yeah, and I doubt that there would be any will to fund that. So no, I agree. If I had a bet on it.
Well, here's the thing on the other side of the line. How much would it cost to actually, do it again? Because it would be cheaper.
I don't think it would be that cheaper. Yeah.
Why do you say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be a lot cheaper.
Why do you say that?
Well, just in case.
Huh?
Because the second one is always a lot cheaper, and they do have a spare, but it doesn't have any working parts, really, does it?
I don't think they built spares. The only thing I remember being built a second time was some of the detectors, because it had taken so long to get going. Some of the detectors had degraded in near term. And so those had to be, because over time they just degrade. And they put new detectors in near cam, I think. Other than that, they didn't build any spares of anything. So, but I think your point is that at least the development of new technologies won't have to happen. If we built another one exactly like that, we could do it because we have experience, and so the man hours to build it would be less. The testing would be less expensive. The testing would we'd have a protocol for all of this, and so it would all be done in a much quicker time, maybe at a little bit less money. It all depends on
a quarter of the price.
But also, also consider the fact that you have to staff staff up again. You'd have to initiate production. That means resetting all the facilities that have, some of which have probably already been tore down or repurposed towards other projects. You know, I mean, like the high bay at Northrop Grumman is undoubtedly probably filled with some other spacecraft that are in there. No, there'd be a lot. It would be a lot. It would be a lot more. I know there's some folks in the chat saying, "Oh, it'll be half. It'll be $1 billion. It'll be this." I'm not sure. I doubt it. I think it would be quite a bit higher.
Thinking about the staffing hours, when was the first delay?
2007.
Yeah, that was the first major delay.
It was supposed to launch in 2007.
And then when was it first proposed?
1989, I think, right before Hubble launched.
That's when they started thinking about it. Yeah.
Okay.
I think the first
right. It was in the early 1990s. They put NASA paid Rockwell of all people for they commissioned a feasibility study.
A feasibility study, right? And I think that the first NGST working group, wasn't that in like the mid 1990s or something?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So you probably need about 3 years to build a new one.
Sounds like you're making this up, Peter.
I don't know, man. Yeah, I gotta say, personally, I don't know.
How long did it really take them to actually put it all together? All we need is the parts.
Construction began in 2001, I think, right, Tony? Isn't that
it was descoped in 2007. It was going to be a much bigger wavelength telescope.
Yeah.
It was turned into an IR only telescope in 2007. Well, okay, I see your point. So we have experience, is what you're saying. We know how to do it. We know what the parts are. We just have to order the parts, get them into IKEA, get the flat pack, and then put it all together. And it should take a lot less time. And I agree with you. That's probably true. There's already experience at Northrop with doing this. The testing will take a lot less time. The time could be done faster. Yes, absolutely, by a lot. Especially if there's a budget that is consistently there for it. But as far as the cost, I honestly don't know that it would be that much cheaper. I agree that it will be cheaper, but half.
I don't know. But there is one thing though that I just realized, and that is, we've been talking about, well, could we do this in the event of a catastrophic failure? Well, what was the catastrophe? In other words, like if it was just like a bad rocket, well, then now we're talking about, in theory at least, just redoing what we just did, right? Build another web, use a different not use a different rocket. It's designed to fly on Ariane, but build a brand new web, put it up on a brand new Ariane. But what if the catastrophe wasn't external to the spacecraft, but something internal? There somehow was a catastrophic failure inside the spacecraft. Well, now you have to that would necessitate a redesign and a rethink of at least part of the spacecraft. So it's not as easy.
There'll also be a contingent that wants to bring the technology into the 21st century, because a lot of that stuff is old stuff.
Yeah, some of it's old,
Those who want to say, instead of these old 20th century detectors, let's use some 21st century detectors, whatever they are, and they'll put them in. And then, of course, now you've got scope creep. But I can promise you that if this thing blows up, there won't be any more. And so we need to go ahead and clear our headspace.
Just relax.
Here's more therapy.
More therapy.
Let's just
relax.
We've got a telescope
It's
that
all gonna be good.
Very smart people built it. Risk that has been identified has been mitigated, and that risk that has not been mitigated has been deemed acceptable. Acceptable. Thank you. And so we are as good as we're ever going to get on a project like this. So let's trust in human. I have lost a lot of trust in human nature over the past couple of years. This pandemic and climate change, all of this has given me a very pessimistic view of what human beings can do. I need this because I need some positive stuff from the human race. And I think it's coming for this. I think this will rejuvenate me. I think this will help me to love my fellow human beings a little bit more and trust that we can solve big problems.
Yeah.
We need to be able to solve big problems.
Yeah.
Are we full of the promise that we think we are? Everybody says there's a bias we all have, that we all think we know more than we do. And we need, so is that true? Or are we able to or do we really know what we think we know? And can we do the hard problems? This is all going to be played out in the next month. Technologically, I can think of nothing harder, not even nuclear plants. What's a harder technical thing? Help me. Give me an example of something that's harder than this. Quantum computing, maybe?
Quantum computing? I don't know. Well, I was going to say International Space Station, but no, I don't think it's harder. I mean,
okay, that's hard, but
it's hard. Yeah.
I mean, it's like, could you build the International Space Station and then deploy it with nothing, with no people?
Yeah.
So let me see what people are saying. So,
yeah.
Eric says fusion.
All right. Yeah.
Let's see.
Curing cancer. Sure, Kevin. I'll give you that one. Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't done that yet.
Yeah, we haven't done that one.
I want examples of what have we done that is this hard. Okay,
it's hard to think of any examples. So, I mean, it really is. I mean, this is up on the. What?
Look at this.
Putting an IKEA set together. Oh God, no! He's right. We're there, right? Whoever they are.
Atheism hits it on the head. Yes. With or without that tool.
Have you tried putting together IKEA furniture?
I love it. My wife Charlotte, she loves that show. She loves that store. And
I've never actually purchased any IKEA furniture, but I've heard it's okay.
Grizzy Wax has a good point there. The moon was harder in the 60s.
The moon,
probably because there were humans on the rocket.
Anytime you're putting human beings on the lives on the line, yes, that's a very, very good point. And the space shuttle was the most complex spacecraft ever flown. Well, I mean, is Webb more complex? I think the shuttle had to be more complex than Webb. I'd like to think the shuttle was more complex because you're trying to support human beings while doing all these other things. We can do things. We have the right people doing this, and this is like I said, we put the people on the moon, we put the rovers on Mars. We're clever apes when we choose to be, and when we're allowed to be. I think it's gonna be fine. I think we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it, guys. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be awesome. Yeah. We're gonna learn so many things with the James Webb Space Telescope. Yeah, can't wait.
NASA of today would not accept the risks in human spaceflight that we did with Apollo.
That's a good point. Uncle P. I think you're right about that. They are way more conservative on the human side than they are on the science directorate side. That's for sure. So I'm just scrolling a few of these comments that people are putting up. Teaching AI humor.
All test.
Yeah. Sending Bitcoin is harder. Oh, here's a good one. LIGO was detecting gravitational waves harder than launching the James Webb Space Telescope to the L2 point and operating and deploying it.
That's interesting.
It's a hard problem. It took decades to get that right.
Yeah. I don't know.
They didn't find a gravitational wave for at least, I think, 20 years. And they finally, of course, they did it in 2016.
Right. 15. Yeah, but yeah.
But okay, but they announced it in 2016, right?
Right,
They did it
right.
in 2015. So is that harder? I don't think the technology.
I don't know. Good question.
It's just interferometers. The hard part was isolating them and getting rid of the noise.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's harder. That's a good one though. I don't know for sure. I can't say for sure if LIGO was harder.
CERN, the Large Hadron Collider. Sure, that was a big deal too. That was a tough thing to do. Yeah.
I did actually. I showed them. Let's see. Eradicating polio. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Well, as I say, pandemics.
Yeah, and of course,
polio was sort of a biology thing.
Is that a harder problem as what was solved? I think the hard problem there was more human nature. We only just recently got rid of polio completely. Smallpox is another example. Yeah. We were completely eradicated smallpox. When I
getting people to get vaccinated for COVID is hard.
Well, when I asked my, see, I was getting really bummed out about this, and I asked my wife, the question that I asked on the stream a while back. I said, give me an example when the human race has actually solved a problem of the scale of climate change. When have we ever solved the problem that hard? And I did this on stream, and we got a couple of like the ozone hole is one always that everybody points out to, which I would point out we still have, but we did mitigate the ozone hole back in the 80s. That was a big problem. We solved it, but I maintain that was because it was easy. And then I asked Charlotte that question, and she without a second delay, she said, eradicating smallpox and polio. Those were the two biggest things that we had done. That we had solved, and so we can do it. We can solve really big climate change era problems. JWST is nowhere near that, but it is a hard one.
If we have the modus to do it, because the greedy people won't bother.
Oh yeah, well
yeah.
Well,
I agree. I think climate change is a hard problem, not just because of technology, but because of political will. Yeah,
that's a different kind of problem.
Yeah, but at the moment it's about vaccinations, and I was going to make your point, Christian. I was boosted yesterday. I would recommend everybody to get vaccinated. All I have now is a sore arm. What's the sore arm compared to the alternative?
Exactly. Good man.
Yep. Good job.
That's outstanding.
I'm boosted too. I need to. Unfortunately, I've got to go soon. So let me just get to a couple quick comments here from Charlie. This I would say that anti-ballistic missile systems are harder. Lots of moving parts all over the world need to work and have a successful intercept. It all happens really fast. Was that the ones where you're trying to hit a bullet with a bullet? Those kind of weapons? That is hard.
I think so. That is tough. Yeah.
Decoding DNA. That was a hard problem. So and general monitor. Polio has not been eradicated entirely. I think that's true. I think there is still a few cases in the world left to be eradicated. So that's true. We haven't fully gotten rid of polio.
But apart from the pandemics that we've had, COVID, the Black Death, that sort of thing, it's not really been squeaky bum time, has it? Because they've really been working on these for years, decades even.
Yep, that's true since the 80s. So aperture synthesis, I don't know what that is, Mark, but in space is also yet to solve. While this
you mean like interferometry? Bringing multiple telescopes together, maybe? I don't know.
I don't know what that means. But yeah, okay. So that's another hard one. I mean, this is here's another hard problem. Containing Chernobyl for good, probably going to be the hardest, costliest engineering project of all time. That's a good point. They keep covering it with stuff, don't they? Just built a big.
Is that what they're doing? They just keep adding layers to it. Wow.
Yeah, I saw a documentary where they were building this giant building that was going to roll over it, and they built the building so that it even missed certain jaggy bits of rubble that came out.
Wow!
So the whole thing was supposed to slide over this thing and be and seal the radiation in even further. So yeah, that's another very hard problem. Wow. So I want to leave this stream just on a very positive note here, because I think we need to remember that there are hard problems in the world, and human beings have gotten as far as we've gotten in part because we are able to use our intellect and our science and technology to not only improve our lives, but to improve our perspective and understanding of the universe in a way that no other creature on this planet is able to do. The fact that we embarked on a project like the James Webb Space Telescope is not only courageous, but it is a testament to not only NASA's ability to keep and to understand what's needed to move humanity forward, but they are also single. Okay, other space agencies are getting involved now these days too, but NASA is leading the spear, is this point of the spear in human understanding of our perspective of our place in the universe more than any other thing. The Hubble Space Telescope, Spitzer Space Telescope, Kepler Space Telescope, and then the ESA has gotten involved with Herschel, Planck, and Gaia, and then then we have the Chandra Space Telescope, and all the wealth and plethora of solar telescopes out in space, touching the sun, flying into the sun, looking at the sun, staring at it 24/7. Going to Mars, landing on Mars, flying on Mars, going to Europa, flying past Pluto. All of these things we can do and have done, and there's no reason that we can't also do this. Yes, there may be a glitch. Yes, we may hit on something that dashes our dreams here with the launch and deployment of the most expensive and most ambitious space telescope ever conceived. But we did it. It got built, and it got put on top of a rocket, and it got launched, or at least it will get launched. and we need to remember these accomplishments in and of themselves are amazing. And so, can we deploy this thing? I firmly believe we can do it. And my only doubt has been when. When will we launch it? And now it looks like it's imminent in 2 days. So I will join you. Christian will be streaming on his channel as well, Launchpad Astronomy. Please go check him out. I don't know how much you want me to talk about it. Are you going to have people with you yet, or do you don't want to?
I don't have anybody firmly committed, but if I can bring some folks on, and Tony, you're welcome to join, man. I mean,
thank you. I appreciate it.
The only too happy to have you.
I know. The only reason is I just have my setup here, and I'm
right. Because we're both going to try to simulcast the NASA or ESA feeds, and then if you're doing that with a person chiming in, that could be a bandwidth issue. I know on your end,
it is for me. It is
that
for
could
me.
Be for you. Yeah. I'm so far knocking on wood. I just actually had our service repaired today, so I'm feeling very confident that I'll be able to support all that stuff. So yeah, I'm talking to some guests right now. I don't want to drop any names because it's going to be Christmas morning.
But you'll have guests. For me,
I'm
going to show up at 7 o'clock. I'm going to stream until about 8:30ish, 9 o'clock. And I got to go because it's Christmas Day.
Yeah. So I've got some guests that have agreed to come on. We're going to talk more about the stuff leading up to and after the launch as to what's next. So it's going to be a fun Christmas.
Go to Launchpad Astronomy, check out his stream. Pop by, say hi to me. I'll be here.
Yeah, watch Tony's, and then you come over. If I'm on when he's off, then you can come over.
It's really okay.
If you haven't already, go and subscribe to Launchpad Astronomy on YouTube and Twitter.
Yes, Launchpad Astronomy. That's
Launchpad Astro.
Christian. So
thank you so kindly.
All righty, guys. All right. Well, I am out of here. I will see you guys Saturday morning. I hope you all have a great Christmas Eve. And Christian, thanks for hanging out with me today, man. This has been great.
My pleasure, my friend.
But just chill. We got this. NASA, ESA, they've got this. It's
going to be good. It's going to be wonderful.
We got this.
Something's
going to be delusional. We got it. We really, really do got it.
So, something is going to happen. Something wonderful. It really is.
There you go. That's a good movie, by the way.
Either it's an explosion, which will be wonderful, or
okay, now
it'll get up there, no problem.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. I'll see you guys Christmas morning. Go JWST, go NASA, go ESA. All of you guys, Godspeed. Thank you all so much for watching. And as always, keep looking up.
Yes, keep looking up.
sec. Okay.
All right. Very good show.
Yes, thank you.
Very enjoyable.